Well, here's another episode of Subscription Radio, and today our guest is the man Tim Masek from 1-800-D2C. Tim, thanks a lot for coming on the show. Appreciate being here.
No, you
Uh,
you got it. Great to connect, and love what you're doing with Rodeo, as mentioned, and yeah, happy to get into it, talk all things subscription, and about this crazy world of D2C.
right. Well, and I think part of what's cool about just like digging into your background before we even jumped on the call was, in addition to being the founder of 1-800-D2C, you also are director of growth. You've done growth marketing like for years, even leading before this. I'm curious,
hmm
like first off, like in this conversation, I do want to keep it around like subscription experiences and like what you've been seeing work and not work. But I do think you have a really interesting, unique vantage point as someone who effectively is aggregating D2C brands and then looking at what's the technology they're using. Um,
hmm
and yeah, I'm curious of what types of information are you even collecting, practically speaking, that's interesting for people who might not realize, because you're seeing how many page views certain D2C brands are getting. I don't know if you're doing anything with that information, but I would imagine there's probably maybe even some lessons, at least just at a even at a vanity level, that would be
So
interesting.
there's a lot of lessons that come from 1-800-D2C, and I mean, just maybe backtracking a little bit on the 1-800-D2C side, the whole reason I created that business was because as a growth operator, I had to make a lot of decisions for the e-commerce brands that I worked with on what would
Yeah,
be their stack. And so that includes subscription, but it was also things
yeah,
like reviews or what do I use for SMS, customer support, etc. And actually, a lot of the e-com founders that I worked with were quite clueless on that stuff. And that's not a knock on them. It's just when when you're starting out your e-com business, you should probably be focused on your product and building a good team, etc. Those key foundational elements before you start thinking about the stack. And so I was able to to jump in and kickstart those conversations around what would be the right stack. So that was my where I came from, and my objective was always to stay on top of what these different tools were. And
hmm,
so if you're on Twitter, you'll see that there's just like new tools every other day, and it's hard to
right,
keep track. And if you're not on Twitter, well, you should definitely spend more time on Twitter. But you end up on demo calls, speaking with lots of different vendors and trying to make sense of what's what. And so I thought it was really difficult to look through the information. And so 1-800-D2C was a way to categorize what are the different tools used by these different great businesses that we look up to,
yeah.
and use that to shortcut the path to making a decision on a tool. So that's a long-winded way of saying, like, for me, I'm able to see now via 1-800-D2C, and so is everybody else, as on a macro level, like what's the most popular subscription solution, or what's the
Right.
most popular SMS solution. And you can use that as a starting point, and then you can also look at what the greats like Jot Coffee are doing to
Yeah.
supplement that information with extra insights.
I'm curious because I think, as I recall, it's self-reported information. So it's not like you're going in and using like store leads or some sort of third party where you're effectively detecting the technology. There is some sort of, I guess I'm trying to understand, like, because someone might have an app installed in their store and not actually be using it. So,
Yeah.
like, what's your process for, like, I guess, like, validating that a brand is actually using the app? And then I was going to say my follow up question to that was going to be, I don't know if you've gotten any qualitative feedback around, well, how much do they actually enjoy using it? Right? Like,
Yeah.
so if someone's using one product, well, maybe they actually flip and hate it, or they don't know that there's actually a better solution out there. Or I'd be curious at like that those like other levels or of the onion around. Yeah, they might be using that,
Yeah.
but maybe they shouldn't be. And then what
Yeah.
are the things they love about it or hate about it? And anyways, I'll let you
So,
answer.
well, I love that you're saying that, because that's kind of what you're seeing is 1-800-DTC after 1 year. It's just over a year now in operation, and
Yeah.
simple premise that is very useful. And now I want to continue peeling those layers and helping more and more operators find the right tools to use for their business. So I am capturing information in a few different ways. A lot is like by building relationships with tools. Some is by capturing data that's available on their website. So like they're using Klaviyo, for example,
Right.
and then you also have brands who just who I engage with who let me know I'm using this tool and it's really really awesome, and that's super super useful, especially for when you start learning about things in the operation stack, which I think is there's still a lot of obfuscation
Right.
in terms of what tools are people using for
Like
inventory
back office
management
stuff.
and
Yeah.
all the back office stuff, which is fascinating. So the next part to your question is around like are people even using are they using or are they even enjoying the tools that they've
Right.
got there?
It's like
I
their
had a
NPS
great
score.
their NPS score.
Yeah.
That's something I'd love to somehow showcase via 1-800-DTC. The one thing I'm doing as a it's not a hacky way to do this, but to give contextual information on how these tools fit into a stack is founder interviews. And those are, I think, the blog posts that get the most traction on 1-800-DTC is when you're
Yeah.
speaking to the founder of a supplements business that's using 4 or 5 different tools. They're then going to let me know how they're using those tools and how critical
Right.
those tools are. I just spoke
Right.
to one business who's in the skincare game, and she's using, in fact, this business called Lamoureux, very, very cool business. And she's
Mm-hmm.
using Octane AI,
Yeah.
which, does custom quizzes and all that. Very, very powerful tool, but it actually becomes 10x more powerful once you're able to use those insights from the Octane AI quiz to start tagging customers within Shopify in certain ways, and then passing that information also then into Klaviyo and into Gorgeous. That's all powered via Alloy automation. And so when you think
Right.
about a tool like Alloy automation, yeah, it sounds cool. I see it all over Twitter. People keep raving about it, but how is it actually being used? I want to know.
Right.
And
Like
so
the recipes. Yeah.
you can potentially dig through the customer case studies on the Alloy front, but you might not trust that as much as a founder telling you, walking you through exactly how they're using it from their perspective. So those blog posts really help, and I'm hoping to add more features to the website to help people understand how these different tools play into a business's success.
Got it. Yeah, and that's what's it like under the hood? Your under the hood series. Is that it?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, I'd read through, and I think I read the one from uh, about gold, Trinity
Oh
for
yeah.
gold.
Mm-hmm. Cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're super fun. It's super fun, and founders in the D2C space. Well, the D2C space as a whole is a very tight knit community, as you know, and founders are they've been helped for the many times by other founders or other operators, and then once they get to a point where they're starting to get some traction, etc., they give back to the community. And I love that about 1-800-DTC is that it's very community focused and people sharing insights with others. That's the one of the big perks of it.
I would say I'm counting how many times you say 1-800-D2C. It's a bit of a mouthful if you have to keep saying it over and over again. It's memorable, which I love. But yeah, how did you come up with that name?
So I'll give you the short form that I use in text messages
You were drunk.
with some key
Yeah.
partners. Um, it's one and then the letter H, 1H.
Uh huh.
Uh, so if it's too much of a mouthful, you can always just say 1H. But no, 1-800-DTC, the name comes from this inspiration of a Yellow Notes or Yellow Pages directory.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's a lot of information in this one book, but it's organized in a neat way and it helps you find the right information. And it's very like call this number for help, 1-800-D2C. And
Yeah.
so it's just riffing off that idea and pairing it with the Yellow Pages directory.
Got it. No, I dig that. And and your website's background is yellow. I don't know if that was intentional or subliminal.
No, very very intentional, very intentional. Yeah.
And is it just you?
So it's me, and I have a lady by the name of Emmy in New York who's helping me out on a more of like a lightweight part-time basis. And
Hmm.
so she's great. She helps me with some of the listings updates, some of the blog posts that we have going on, what's happening on social, etc. But yeah, for the most part, it's just me and some extra help in New York.
Got it. And I'm curious, like as of right now, how many brands do you have listed?
So it's I don't know I'd have to check the exact number, but we're now well over 1,000 brands. And I say well over. I'm not trying to boast a large number. That's not my intention. My intention is not to just have a ton of brands. It's to actually be a little bit thoughtful about which brands are there. And so I want brands where you'd want to know what they're using. I'll go back to the example for Jot, which I know you're working with.
Yeah.
Great, great business. You want to know what's the secret sauce behind that business.
Hmm.
How are they doing what they're doing? It's not just their stack, but like what's their team composition? How did they fundraise? Who did their design? All those things you'd want to uncover,
Hmm.
and therefore
Yeah.
they should be on 1-800 D2C. But if it's a brand that's that just launched another supplement, and they're not that interesting beyond the fact that they just launched. They're probably not going to be listed on 1-800 DTC just yet unless they start making big moves.
Got it. Interesting. And so I'm curious of these of the brands that are on your site. How many of them are you a customer of, or have you purchased from?
Well, because it's over 1,000, unless I became like Bill Gates overnight, I'm not going to be able to purchase from all of them. But I mean, I purchased from a bunch of Shopify sites or D2C businesses. One that is relevant actually to the subscription space is and I love their subscription experience is Seed Health.
Hmm. Oh,
So
interesting.
they
I
do
haven't heard of them.
they do gut health supplements.
Uh huh.
Really really sleek website, sleek brand identity. And yeah, because they're based in the US and they don't ship internationally, I live in London, but
Okay.
I'm here in New York for a few weeks. I stocked up big time on seed to bring back to the UK.
Got it. Right. So there, it's a probiotic. I just googled it.
Hmm.
Right.
Yeah, that's right.
Very interesting. And what do you like about the experience? Is it the subscription experience? Is it the like? What is it specifically?
So for me, on the subscription side, what's interesting about Seed, and there's a few, I mean, there's a couple other businesses like that, but I get really interested or intrigued by businesses like Seed from a subscription standpoint because they're subscription only.
Yeah.
And subscription only, I think, is a really, really strong position to be in because it focuses your entire business on delivering the best subscription experience possible, and
Mm-hmm.
it like makes the communications around your brand very, very crisp. Everything you do when it comes to ads, social posts, etc., it's always going to drive to subscription. And as soon as you start introducing subscription plus one-off purchases, the message gets a little bit more diluted. Now, most businesses that are using subscription have a one-off purchase, option. So it's actually quite unique to only have subscription only. And I'm not suggesting that people should go subscription only, but I've always been fascinated by that model. I think it's a really, really strong position to be in if you've got a strong proposition like Seed does. So, to answer your question, that is what I find quite remarkable about Seed is their complete devotion to being a subscription only business.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting because like, and I've had this conversation with a few of the people in the show around, when someone first, it's like a big ask to have someone subscribe without
Hmm.
them using the product, right? Because most of us want to try something before we decide to keep it,
Hmm.
and starting off with a subscription is basically like uh, getting engaged. You're not married yet, but you are on the hook for the renewal, right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so I think um, one interesting thing I've seen is strategically brands using one-time purchases and subscriptions to do price anchoring. So they
Hmm.
actually want you to buy the subscription, but they'll have the one-time product there, one-time purchase there to price anchor to make it feel like, well, why wouldn't I just get the subscription?
Hmm.
But as a consumer on the practical side, oftentimes I'm like, well, I don't want to remember to have to cancel. I don't want to. Yeah, so I'm curious, and I'm sure that maybe I can get them on the show, but I'm curious what they've found and if they ever started off as one time or like samples, or if they've
Hmm.
always been subscription only. Their business model,
Yeah.
obviously, because it's a probiotic, makes sense as a subscription,
Yeah.
and it's one of those unique things where like you know exactly how often you need it, and so
Hmm.
you don't have the challenges of like, am I going to run out? Do I need more?
Hmm.
But no, that's dope, and thank you for sharing that because I haven't seen this before.
No, of course, of course. They're a great business to research. They've raised a lot of money and they're very successful, and they're a super well researched business. And that's why I think it's a bold thing to do. But when you're confident in what you're offering, and you actually as a founder, you know that like this is not a product that you can't regularly take, and I want to force that onto my customers,
Yeah.
then that's when you're able to take it. For me, it's the businesses who should definitely not do that are the ones who are using subscription as a way to experiment with um, with conversion rate optimization, and like driving up LTV and all that. This is not really what Seed of. Obviously, the LTV is baked into their subscription, but Seed is like this is the only way or the highway, and they've been that way since day one. So yeah, good, I think a good one to take notes from.
No, that's cool. I'll go through their sign up flow. And are you saying that their actual subscription experience itself is pretty sweet?
So I haven't. I'm pretty sure it's powered by Recharge. I'd have to
Mm-hmm.
double check, but it's well, the checkout experience is very seamless, and that's mostly. I mean, it's a
Shopify.
simple checkout
Yeah.
experience, Shopify and all that. But the key thing is that the PDP experience is seamless because it's the only thing they sell. So
Yeah.
that's quite clear. From a messaging, it's very clear and crisp. And then the actual management of the subscription, I haven't dealt with just yet, but I think, well, we'll see, we'll see. But I have to imagine it's going to be really solid because of the how much weight there is on that experience being ideal. And that's kind of goes back to the point about having super focused on one thing. Here, because they're subscription only,
Yeah.
you can expect their subscription experience to modify orders, etc., to be to be perfect. Because if it isn't, then then they're not going to go very far. And for a business that's got 60% of their orders coming off a one-off purchase, 40% coming off subscription, and then actually people doing subscription only because they want the discount and then they cancel and all that. You're busy doing a million things that might not focus on creating the best possible ongoing subscription management experience. Here, they've got the luxury of being hyper focused. So we'll see. I'll give you the update in like a month on what the experience is like, but I can't imagine it's going to be anything but pretty strong.
Got it. Yeah. And what about any other subscriptions you have?
I'm trying to think. Beverages. I have a subscription to seltzer business. It's not Spindrift, but it's we had Ugly Drinks
Oh
in
yeah.
London for a while. I don't, I forget the name. Uh, oh, it's called Feel Goods.
Okay.
So we have a subscription. I think we have a subscription to Feel Goods, another business, but I think seltzer businesses, it works really well. Subscription is a really perfect proposition for those types of businesses. And I actually think I manage one or two via Amazon. So I
Yeah.
just subscribe via Amazon, which has been pretty handy.
Yeah, no, what's funny though is I find like the Amazon subscription experience ironically is not that great. Like you actually can't expedite, you can't easily be like, okay, I need more of this thing right now, even though it's not coming for another few weeks,
Mm,
which is interesting.
yeah. Yeah,
Um,
I think we're still early days of making it super seamless to stay to to stay subscribed to different propositions.
all right, I'm curious. So you seem to be as someone who's been paying attention to a lot of what's happening and changing in e-commerce and D2C. Uh, I don't think we've ever mentioned Web3 on this podcast before, but I'll
Mhm.
mention it now. Like, have you been paying attention at all to like different things that have been happening around ways for brands to, we'll call it drive loyalty through whether
Mhm.
it's web NFTs or Web3
Mhm.
or membership perks?
Yeah. Two things that come to mind there. I mean, one is the team at Novel. So
Yep.
novel.shop, that's the URL. The
Yeah.
Roger, he used to run Smarter, so he's
Smarter.
super switched
Yep.
on in terms of loyalty, LTV, all those things, and very passionate about Web3. He's enabling, for the people who don't know, he's enabling brands to sell NFTs on their Shopify site, and for
Mm-hmm.
consumers to be able to purchase those NFTs using a debit card. So you don't need
Mm-hmm.
to have like some sort of crazy complicated, MetaMask wallet or anything like
Right.
that. And then once you own the NFT, you can unlock perks related to your Shopify store, which is super brilliant, I find. Um, there's there's been a great newsletter recently called Token Gated Commerce, but it was written by I think it was Paki.
Oh,
So
yeah.
that yeah, and so that's what it's all about. Token gated commerce means using crypto assets to unlock new parts of a website.
Yeah.
So it's like a membership essentially that gives you access to special perks. Um, Novel is at the forefront of all that, and I think they're really interesting. Another one to look at is not necessarily in the Web3 space, but tackling something similar with memberships, and that's
Yeah.
Conjured memberships. They used to have they had two apps. One is Conjured Referrals, very popular referral software. And now
Yeah.
they have this thing called Conjured Memberships. And Conjured Memberships is a way you add that on your Shopify store and you can
Yeah.
start gating. Maybe it's blog posts, maybe it's certain products, etc. So not powered by Web3 or
Yeah.
NFTs or anything like that, but still has the same impact. So I would say look at those two. It's definitely people are excited about it, and it's not excited in a fad y way. People are excited, as I'm seeing it, more in a way that's like there's something big here. We can really innovate in the world of e-commerce, and we're only just scratching the surface. So let's keep digging. And we're going to speak with the people at Off Limits doing funny things with cereal, and then we're going to speak with maybe a couple other brands who are a little bit wacky and experimental. And over time, we'll figure out what works within NFTs or memberships, and build the next wave of e-commerce businesses. So I still think that commerce as we know it today on Shopify and all that, pretty linear process, minus maybe subscription, and this
Yeah.
kind of opens up new really big new possibilities within the world of e-commerce. So I'm actually genuinely super excited about that whole space and people like Novel, people like Conjured Memberships.
Got it. Yeah, no, I've come across Conjured before, and we've done a fair amount with just memberships and like providing. Like one thing that we do at Jot is there's products that you can only get as a
Mm-hmm.
subscriber. So
Mm-hmm.
like Jot does like small batch artisanal coffees that they cycle out every month or so. And so
Mm-hmm.
the only way to get it is as a subscriber.
Mm-hmm.
And so I mean, I look at, and there's like an awesome book. I don't know if you've read it, but it's called The Membership Economy.
No, I
Um,
haven't seen it.
yeah, it's great. And part of what the author's thesis is and what she talks about, she wrote it like 15 years ago. Excuse me, or maybe 10 years ago at this point. Doesn't matter. It's a rounding error. But she was talking about how membership is the umbrella and like recurring, like subscriptions are a subset of membership,
Yeah.
right? And that subscriptions are really a business model. They're not
Mm-hmm.
like and like they're not a thing that consumers care about. They're
Mm-hmm.
just they are the recurring revenue piece
Mm-hmm.
is the basically it's in the interest of the business. It's a business model, whereas membership
Mm-hmm.
is much more sort of again at the higher level, like what's in it for the consumer.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a business model that's been like, I wouldn't say old as time, but
Mm-hmm.
Costco comes to mind, and obviously everyone knows Amazon and Amazon Prime, and
Mm-hmm.
yeah, it'll be interesting to see how both subscriptions as well as membership, I'll say individually as well as I would imagine there'll be a lot of overlap, how that evolves,
Yeah.
and just seeing like what are the
Yeah.
interesting ways that people are doing that.
Yeah, love that, and I've tweeted a few times already when I see a business shift from using the term subscription to using the term memberships, and more you're seeing brands go that direction, and
Yeah.
maybe another thing to think about. I love looking at the world of D2C and then kind of taking it the look at those same trends in other industries, just like you described, Costco or something else, but like you don't say you're subscribed to a gym.
Right.
No one says that. You're a member.
Yeah.
You
You
got a
also can't
membership to a
skip a
gym.
gym. You can't skip a gym membership
You
month, typically.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. But you can pause your membership,
Yeah.
but you wouldn't say you're pausing your subscription. So I love what I totally agree with what you're saying when it comes to like membership being at the top and subscriptions actually like it's more of a technical term to describe a business model as opposed to like consumer facing lingo that makes you feel part of something.
Yeah. No, it's interesting, and it's for better and for worse something that I think a lot about. Um, so
I'm sure.
what are some other things that have like caught your eye or attention? Because I know we came in with sort of a bunch of different topics we could talk about. Anything that's particularly exciting to you, or things that you're seeing happening in D2C outside of what we already talked about?
The um Yeah, I mean, there's a bunch of things. I'd say I think there's a lot of improvement to be made on shipping internationally. That's one thing which I'm still kind of digging and learning about new players in the space and how people uh, finding new ways to expand into other audiences that are not just local to their market.
Hmm.
There's a lot more. So I think that's an interesting space to look at in general. And then there's I recently spoke with a really interesting team called Bounty. They're
Hmm.
doing something in the UGC space, which I think has pretty big implications. So that's worth checking out. What basically they do is they
Cashback for
enable,
sharing products, I think.
yeah, cashback for posting TikTok videos of the products you receive. So let's say I
Fascinating.
buy my Jot coffee and I want to get cash back on it. Well, hey, Jot is going to be like, we're cool with giving you cash back. Just give us a ton of views on TikTok. And once I get my Jot coffee, I'm going to post a TikTok of myself drinking it. And if it somehow gets 10,000 views or whatever, based on that CPM, I'm going to be able to get cash back on Jot. So just as I think about bigger trends, etc., I do think that it's not just a new tool to know. They are onto something that's probably a bigger trend than that.
Yeah, that's really interesting. Yeah, I'd only heard of it, but I actually hadn't been to the site before. Um, I'm on it right now, and interesting.
Yeah, Jones Road is using it. The team at Doe Lashes is using it.
Yeah, I saw
They're
Doe
they're, they're
Lashes was
making
the first one. Yeah.
yeah, they're making inroads with some good people.
Well, awesome, man. I was say like one question I wanted to ask was, uh, like, do you have a big ask? Like, is there one thing that would change the trajectory of your business or your life that you could put out? Like,
Mm, uh, okay, here's one. Um, I I'd love a I'd love to unlock more funds on 1-800-DTC in a non-dilutive way. So, for instance, Webflow, the website is built on Webflow. It's all no code. They've just raised a big round, and as part of that, they're going to give back to the community and invest in businesses, or like they have a community grant or something to invest in
mm-hmm.
businesses that are powered by Webflow. And so, I've been speaking to some people there. I'd love to be a part of that and unlock a bit of funding from the Webflow team because I'm super bullish on Webflow, love the tool so much, and that would help me a ton as a business. Obviously, just kind of building this out, adding all the features that we've been talking about to help people find tools in a faster, more efficient way. So, in terms of like what would change the trajectory, I would say
Right.
money,
Non-dilutive
just like
capital.
non-dilutive capital.
And because the way that you do make money is through sponsored posts or sponsored tools and stuff, right? Is that right?
Yeah, there's a few different ways, but a lot of times people just want more exposure via the website, and I'm able to provide that in some non-intrusive ways for the customer.
Got it. And yeah, if people want to connect with you online or get in touch with you, what's the best way?
Well, you can connect with me via Twitter
Yep.
or even LinkedIn. So Twitter, my handle is TIM__MSK.
Yeah,
Uh,
we'll add it to the show notes.
yeah, so you could find that, and then also provide my LinkedIn link in case you want to connect. And yeah, those
Awesome.
are probably the two fastest ways.
Yeah, we'll include both. Awesome, man. Hey, it was a lot of fun having you on the show, and yeah, if you're not already in the know, you should go out and check out 1-800-D2C, or what is it, 1H?
Yep, if you want
What's
to.
your code name for it?
Yeah, one H for the ones who are really on the inside.
On the
If you
inside.
want.
All
Yeah,
right. Well, now I'll call it 1H.
cool, cool.
All right, man.
Yeah, it's
Thanks for
great,
coming on the show.
great chatting. And yeah, man, keep doing what you're doing with rodeo. It's I love what you're up to.
Cool. Thank you. All right. I clicked stop.